In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a black and white conversion from a color original, and then from that black and white conversion, we're going to make a nice looking sepia shot. And so that's going to give us three images of the same shot. It's going to give us the color original, the black and white conversion, and the sepia. And we're going to put all three of those onto one PowerPoint screen. Okay, so let's get started. As you can see, this was at a photo shoot at someone's home, and it had a hideous red background. So I knew that I was going to have to do a black and white conversion. So this is one of the photos that I chose, and let's just move that into Photoshop. And I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so it'll fit on the screen. So you can see how ugly that red background is. So the first thing that I'm going to do, as I always do when I do any kind of Photoshop work, is I'm going to duplicate this layer by going to duplicate layer. And I'm just going to call it the black and white layer. Alright, so there it is. You can see it on the side there, and when I turn it off and turn it on, they look exactly the same. So it's this one that I'm going to work on, and that's the one that I'm highlighting with my little pointer tool. First thing I'm going to do is go to the image menu and adjustments, and I'm going to go to black and white. And that's just going to give me a black and white image. And I can do a couple of things with this black and white image. Even though it has had all the color removed from the image that we're displaying, that we know that there was a red background, and I could make that red background really dark. That would be a little too much. Or I can wash that red background out a little bit, because I can control it separately. So I'm just, as you can see in here, I'm about 83%. I'm just going to make it a little lighter than it was. I'm going to use the preview button. Ooh, that's how it looked before. And now it's just kind of a medium gray background, which is nice. Okay, so I'm done with that. Now this image looks a little flat to me. And that happens a lot with black and white conversions. They have too much scale. So again, I'm going to go back to the adjustments. And in this case, I'm going to go to the levels. And this is what the levels menu looks like. And you know what? I'm just going to raise the black. Now, the shadows are over here on the left. The midtones are in the center, and the highlights are up at the top. I'm gonna mess around a little bit with the midtones. Overall, darken it. Just give it a little more drama. Okay? Just a little more drama. Let's use the preview button. We can see what it looked like to begin with, right after the conversion. And now it's just it's got a lot more contrast and bite, and I'm going to say okay to that. And now I've got my black and white version right here, and I'm pretty good to go. There's a little extra space around him, which I really don't need. So I'm going to deal with that later when I make the copies of these various layers. Now we're going to take this black and white layer, and we're going to duplicate layer. And we're going to call this sepia. Now I'm going to show you the very, very cool thing about making conversions in Photoshop. Again, it looks like a black and white image, but when we go up to image and we go to adjustments, we can go to color balance. Now, you'd say, well, there is no color balance in here because there is no color. But we can introduce color into a black and white image. And I'm going to slide the red up a little bit. And notice how the image is getting a little red. And then I'm going to slide the yellow in the opposite direction. And when I line these three little sliders up, they produce what I consider to be an optimal sepia image. Let's look at it without the preview button. And there you go. It looks nice and warmer, and it just looks like an old photograph, right? And I'm going to say OK. So now let's look at our layers. That's our color layer. It's pretty hideous. Let's turn on the black and white layer, and let's turn on the sepia tone. And that's what we have for these images. Now, when we make a copy, it only copies the layer that the top layer that we have selected. So, in other words, when I go to File menu and I do Save As, it's going to save the top layer that I have selected over here on the right. And I'm going to call this Drew, that's it, model's name, Sepia. Okay? And I'm going to make sure that I save it as a JPEG. And I'm just going to put it onto my desktop. That's the destination. All right? And I'm going to go save. It asks me what file size I want. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a really big file size. I'm just going to make it number 10. It's the quality. And save that. Now, we're going to make a copy of the black and white layer. We turn off the sepia layer. We highlight the black and white layer. We do Save As. We're going to call this Drew Black and White. And save it as a JPEG. And it asks us about the quality, and again, I'm just going to save it to number 10. Okay, now let's turn off the black and white layer and highlight the background layer. And I'm going to do Save As. And I'm going to do Drew Color. Save it as a JPEG to my desktop. Again, let's just choose 10. So all of these will be the same. Okay, and now we are done. When we close Photoshop, it's going to ask us if we want to save everything we've done. And I'm going to say yes, I want to save all of that. And I'm going to save it as Drew Conversion. And I am going to save it as a Photoshop file. And that way I'll have all of the Photoshop layers in case I want to work on them again. All right, we're done with Photoshop. And what we want to do now is we want to open up PowerPoint. And this is what I'm going to get. I'm going to pick this default theme by clicking on it twice. And I get this screen. As before, I'm going to get rid of these text boxes. We're going to be making a couple of more than just one screen in this video. So I'm going to duplicate. I think there's a menu item up here. Oh yeah, duplicate right there. And so I'll have a few extras. All right. So let's bring in our images. We had the Drew color. put that over here. We had the Drew black and white, and we have the Drew sepia. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop these a little bit. So if I click on it twice, I'm going to get the cropping tool here, and the cropping tool puts these little handles, if you can see them, on here. And I'm just going to crop this. Might have been a little better to have done this to the original, then I wouldn't have to crop them, but that's done now, and I'm going to pick the next one, double click on it, and get the crop tool again. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about what happens when you don't crop this using the cropping tool. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make. Let's make that mistake with this one. So what I do is, let's say, oh, I just want to crop this. Look what happens when I try to crop it. It squashes it down. We definitely don't want that, so we're going to undo that. You have to have these special handles on here that only come with the cropping tool. And now you can see that the handle changes. Crop those down. So they're all about the same size now. And let's see, they may not all fit on this image, on this one screen. If we select them all and grab onto the corner of one of them, when I size them down, they'll all be sized at the same rate. Notice that I'm grabbing onto the corner, not the handle at the top or the bottom. If I grab onto the handle at the top or the bottom, it's going to squash them. But when I do the corner, the aspect ratio stays the same, and it keeps them from getting squashed. They don't quite fit on there. I'm going to, again, highlight them all, size them down just a little bit more. And now I have the first set of 3 of the conversion shots that I'm doing, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to save this as black and white conversion 1. And again, I'm going to just save this to the desktop because I intend to post this through Canvas to me, to my instructor. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just going to fix this a little bit so they all are spaced properly. I'm going to hit the right arrow. There we go. So now we're finished with the assignment, except for labeling it. I'm going to go to the text box. I'm going to call this black and white conversion. It's, I believe, week 2 assignment, and my name. And I'll just put that in the center. We are done with the first submission for this assignment. Thanks for watching.